Hey guys, it's your boy Ugly Death here. Today I'll be talking about the 10 tips that can help you improve your performance as a mage during a speedrun in Blackwing Lair. Hope this is helpful to you. There are many more tips, but these are the ones that I could think of. Enjoy. As always, first on the list to be prepared for a Blackwing Lair speedrun is actually to do the preparation before that. That means that you want a list of consumables with you, which will greatly increase your performance, like a couple of times more than having the best in slot gear over blue gear. So the list of consumables is quite simple. You need a flask of supreme power. You need, ideally if it's the speed one greater arcane elixir. You want to have at least 5 limited invulnerability potions. You want to have around 5 to 10 greater fire protection potions. If you're an engineer, you want to have some iron grenades. You want to have some nightfin soup, and you want to have a lot of mana potions. You don't need the major ones, they're really expensive. You can go with greater mana potions. And lastly, you want to have a stack of rune cloth bandages. Now the second part is to get your world buffs. In case you haven't raided before in Classic, world buffs are a major game changer. Just as much as consumables, they bring so much more to the table than epic upgrades over blue upgrades. So the world buffs that you wanna get, ideally in order of how significant they are, you wanna get the running cry of the Dragon Slayer. You wanna get the Dark Moon Fair buff if it's up. You wanna get the Songflower from Fairwood. You want to get the Darmo Tribute Run buffs, which is Slipkick Savi and Moldar's Moxie. And ideally you want to get the Warchief Blessing and the Zul'Gurub buff. Alright, on Razor Gore, I have actually made a video for mages that need to handle X. I'll put a link to it, but a couple of things to add there really quickly for people not handling the X. Make sure you have Amplify Magic on Razor Gore, because when he's mind controlled you can buff him. If you are the mage destroying the X, make sure to call for shields, and make sure to have Ice Block up in case something goes wrong and you need to Ice Block. Apart from that, just nuke the boss and be sure to drink a greater fire protection potion when when you start damaging Razor Gore, because you want the cooldown to be down for the next fight. And that's it for Razor Gore. Okay, for Vows, make sure not to engage the goblins. If you do, try not to stand in their blast radiuses, because that takes away from your fire shield that you will need for Valstras. Valstras is a simple fight for us, just spam your Frostbolt, but make sure to pop your Fire Ward 10 seconds before you engage Valstras, and make sure to drink a greater fire protection potion as well. You want to use your cooldowns early on as to not get interrupted. Valstras, I'm sure most of you know, has an aura which does a lot of fire damage, which interrupts you. So make sure to use your cooldowns when you have all your shields up, when your greater fire protection potion is up. Next is the Suppression room, or what some people call it the Depression room. What you want to have here is, you are one of the few classes that needs to focus on the ads, and you want to conserve mana. So how do you do this? If you're low on mana, you use rank 1 Arcane Explosion, fish for clear casting procs, and when you get a clear casting proc, use Blizzard. During a speedrun, no one's gonna wait for you to get your mana, so you have to conserve it. Also using Dark Runes to get your mana back up, drinking only when possible, although you shouldn't have a lot of time to drink, and don't AoE 2 or 3 webs. Wait for them to spawn. They don't hit for a lot. You can wait to get at least 6-7 webs, before you start to nuke him down. Once you get to Bloodlord, your raid leader should put you in the right position to not spawn ads during the fight and just nuke the boss down. If you do see some ads, same again, try to nuke them down when there are more than a couple. Now for fire mode, what you want to do is have a fire resistance set. If you don't have a fire resistance set, you should forget fire resistance altogether. I mean, you either have a set and use it, or just ignore fire resistance. If you go middle of the road, your DPS will struggle and you're not gonna get anything extra for having just some fire resistance. So your Winter Steel mage, the mage that actually has ice block, should have his cold snap available, and he should tank most of the AoE fire damage from fire mode, and when the stacks get too high, he should ice block and begin casting again. That goes only if you have ice block. The rest of the mages, as always, try to blow your cooldowns early on, when you aren't interrupted as much, when you don't have that many stacks, etc. Now let's talk about the Labpacks. This is one of the reasons that our speedrun, at least, definitely needs a mage. You need one mage with frost barrier, so the Winter Steel mage, to tank the goblins. How do you tank the goblins? Well, your tank pulls the whole Labpacks back, and you should cast a flame strike because it does the most threat onto the goblins when they approach, and you should get the threat with them. Then you should cast a couple of arcane explosions just to do some more damage and gain more threat. And here is the difference between a speed and normal one. You shouldn't go below 50% mana. You should have enough AoE damage to keep aggro, and the rest of the mages, once they've killed the warlock, should help you clear down the pack. Just to have a couple of insurances, you're gonna have your personal healer. If you're tanking the goblins, you should run around but not next to other players. You should have ice barrier cast when it's available. You should have fire ward cast when it's available. If you lose your shield, you should pop a greater fire protection potion. Some of your teammates will help you with iron grenades. And one thing here you can do is you can ice block to prevent a death if you're sure that it will happen, but don't stay in ice block because the goblins will start throwing dynamites in the raid and you don't want that. So if you need it to prevent a death, just cast it and then remove it as soon as possible. For the other two drakes, you know the drill. Rank 11 frostbolt, nothing to do here, it's a tank fight. For the trash that is vulnerable to magic, what you want to do is you have a weak aura to tell you which of the mobs are vulnerable to what kind of magic. If you see a couple of mobs that are vulnerable to the mage's magic, that is fire, frost and arcane, don't single target nuke one of them to pull threat. Weaven, just hit one with a spell, then hit the other that's vulnerable with a different spell, not to pull aggro. In case you do pull aggro, and we're doing a speed run, you should immediately have a limited invulnerability potion ready to pop. Even if you can blink away and run, the rest of the DPS is losing DPS if you pull aggro. So have those limited invulnerability potions at the ready and cast them if you pull threat. But it's better not to pull threat by spreading the damage onto the different mobs. Now for Commonness, it is kind of a long fight, you might need to advocate, so just a couple of tips here. If he is vulnerable to nature and shadow, that's when you need to advocate, and be sure to remove the curses if it's not the last phase of the boss. If it is, just nuke him down. Also, make sure to have restorative potions, they remove most of the debuffs that you have on you. And if you have ice block, use it when you have 2 or 3 debuffs, or if you have the Bronze Affliction and no sand. Make sure to have a limited invulnerability potion ready in case one of the breath is bronze. And lastly, Ithorian. For Ithorian, there are 3 phases, as you know. For the first phase, if you're doing a speed run, you don't need to help out that much with damage. What you want to do is immediately switch with the warlocks in case some of the mobs are immune to shadow or frost or bit or fire, but you shouldn't have fire mages. And don't waste your mana killing the chromatic mobs. They resist most of the spells. You should just cast one frostbolt onto the normal mobs and the melee should take care of them. Make sure to enter phase 2 with 90% mana or more if possible, because phase 2 is the real challenge, phase 2 and phase 3. So for phase 2 you need to be max range in order to avoid the fear. You can stay on max range and just frostbolt the dude. That's basically all you do, except during 2 calls. If you have a warlock call, AoE the heads down. If you have a shaman call, it's not, the melee should take down the totems. You shouldn't bother with the totems. And if you have a druid call, you want ideally 2 of the mages, ideally undead mages, to go close in order to be able to curse the tank when he gets a curse. For phase 3, what you want to do is pop a limited invulnerability potion and start AoEing down with arcane explosions that, and if you have strat holy water, which you should because you're a prepared raider, use that as well. If you have a couple of mages that do that, that will die almost instantly, and then you finish down the boss. Congratulations, you have finished your speedrun.